Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. This podcast is going to walk you through my journey into mediumship and how I came to realize that I could communicate with souls that have passed over. My adventure started just over a year ago when unusual situations started happening to me. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention to them that it all started to come together. I wrote down everything that I was experiencing this past year in a little black book, and this podcast is going to be a recap of all of those memories leading up to where I am today in my mediumship journey. I will be releasing new episodes every Tuesday, and I recommend listening to the podcast in order, starting with episode 1, as my story will unfold more week by week. If you would like to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and this is episode 25. We're catching up, folks. We are catching up. Today's episode is from Thanksgiving 2019, and we are February 2020. So we're getting close. If you haven't already, please leave me a review and a rating on iTunes. It is so simple. It'll take you 2 minutes, not even. If you just scroll to the bottom of my episodes, there will be a spot where you can just click 5 stars and leave me a little review. I would really appreciate it. It helps people find me in the podcast world. So in today's episode, I'm really excited to share this one because my good friend Tara is back. This is probably the 5th episode about her. If you haven't heard the previous episodes, go back and listen to them. I've channeled now 5 of her family members. 6, maybe? There's a lot. We have a lot of content, and today is a good one. So, of course, by divine timing, the day that this episode is releasing will be the day that I go to pick up Tara and her mom from the airport. They are coming to Banff for a visit, and I am over the moon and also so excited that this episode is being released the day that they fly. So incredible. Thank you, universe, for bringing me that gift. Another funny thing that just happened to me, I like to pull a card before I record the podcast. I don't know why, but it's when I'm sitting down and I have time and my card deck is right beside me, so I remember to do it. As I said, I just used an oracle deck. You can use any oracle deck. You don't have to use this one, but I use the Colette Baron Reed, the Enchanted Map oracle deck. I received this deck from my Reiki Masters course, and I talked about it in my last episode. But while I was shuffling the deck today, I was just thinking about how I haven't seen many of the cards. I was like, wow, I'm going to have to use this deck for a really long time before I end up seeing all of the cards. And I'm shuffling, and I was kind of trying to look at the cards while I was shuffling them. And then I thought, no, Steph, turn them the other way, do this properly. So as I was shuffling, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what new card I'm going to get today because there's so many beautiful cards in here. I wonder what I need to hear today. And I decide that I need to cut the deck in half and turn over my hand that would have half the deck in, and that card on the bottom would be my card. So I did it, and I turned my hand over, and it's the Bone Collector, card number 1. And I've pulled this card now, I think 3 times. So I had a good laugh because I just thought to myself, I was just thinking about how I wanted a new card. I was just thinking about how I haven't seen many cards. And here I am pulling the Bone Collector again when I had just pulled this card maybe a week ago. And I think before that, it was 3 days before that. And then I read for my friend and I pulled the card for her too. So sometimes you need to hear the same message over and over and over again. And in this case, my message is you are whole and have everything you need within. So I think this is a big one for me because my last day of my salary job was yesterday. I'm going to part-time so that I can do more Reiki and yoga and podcast, and I want to start YouTube, and there's so many things that I want to do. Retreats. The universe is opening up and possibilities and opportunities are endless, but I think I do need to remember that I got this. I can do it. Steph's got your back, Steph. All right, let's get right into this episode. So we are going back, like I said, to Thanksgiving 2019. So in the last episode, I had mentioned that I was going home to Ontario to do my Reiki Master's course, and while I was there, I was staying for a week to do some visiting. So my first visit, my first stop was with Tara. I was staying at her house when I was doing my Reiki Master's course, and then when the course finished, we were going up to her cottage with her whole family to do Thanksgiving. So my plan was to go there for one night, and then the next night I was going to my dad's house, and then the next night I'd be going to my mom's house. So I had a pretty tight schedule, and everything was planned out of where I was going when and where I was going to be. So the Friday night we arrived at the cottage, and because I have channeled for Tara many times, her family had also been listening to the podcast. So she kind of told me that all of her uncles and their kids have listened to the podcast and they were excited to meet me. So I was a little bit nervous because I had never met anyone that listens to the podcast that I didn't know personally before. So I would be meeting someone new and they also listened to the podcast. So it was like they knew my little secret already. So the Friday night we arrived, it was later in the evening, and Tara's mom just asked for some Reiki because she had a headache. She was planning the big Thanksgiving weekend and cooking, and everyone was arriving, and there was a lot of people there, so it was a lot of hustle and bustle. And I said, of course I could help you with your headache. Let's just sit on the chair and I'll Reiki you a little bit, just to get grounded and calm down for the weekend. So we were sitting just in the living room by ourselves, and I was giving her a little bit of Reiki, and she asked if her dad was there. And I said, your dad's telling me that he's not here with everyone because he's with your mom. While everyone is here together, he didn't want her to be alone. So he kind of said, the whole family is here, her and all her brothers were there and all their kids, and their mom is in a home now, and he wanted to go be with her so that she wasn't alone. And then Tara's mom asked me if her mom knew that her dad was there with her. And he said that she only knows when he's there when she's dreaming. And then he says that he sees her sitting in her chair with her beige blanket, and he knows that she's okay, and he just likes to sit with her, whether she knows he's there or not, but he knows that she knows. So it was just a little message while I was giving her a small Reiki session, and it was nice and perfect, just what she needed to hear. So the next day, Saturday, was when I was scheduled to leave to go to my dad's house. But the rest of the family was arriving that day, and they all wanted to meet me. So my friend and her mom were asking me to stay because they wanted me to meet the whole family, and there was a few people who were kind of hoping for a reading. But the people that would be coming to dinner that night were his two sons and their families and his grandchildren who he would have never met. But he did talk about them in episode 4, Who is the Man in the Washroom? He discussed about how he knew about each of his son's kids. He knew about his daughter's kids. He knew that his one son named his oldest son after the dad, and he said thank you for that. So if you want all the details of the first time the dad came through, just go back and listen to episode 4, because that will be the episode that is referenced in today's episode. So Tara was asking me to stay, and her mom was asking me to stay, and her brothers were asking me to stay. But I had told my dad that I was coming that day, so I really felt like I needed to leave. And I was also super nervous because I would be sitting at a table full of her family who weren't asking me or being pushy at all, but who I know had a small hope or wish that maybe something could happen. I was nervous because when I channeled her dad the day before, very briefly, he said, I'm not there with you guys, I'm with mom. So that to me meant that he wasn't going to come through. So I said I didn't want to stay and attend this dinner and everyone be a little bit hopeful, and then I have nothing to deliver because dad told me he's not with us, he's with mom. So I literally had my suitcase by the door of the cottage. I was ready to leave. I was ready to go to my dad's, and the look on Tara's mom's face when she asked me to stay just pulled at my heartstrings. I could tell that any glimmer of hope that her dad might come through for the family on Thanksgiving was just gonna light her up. And I just couldn't say no to her. She said, Steph, please stay. We really would love you to stay. My family would be so happy to meet you. And I was just thinking that I didn't want to upset my dad, but I did really want to stay. maybe I just call him and tell him kind of the situation and maybe he would understand. So I thought, I'll call my dad, and if he is really wanting to see me today, then I will go today. But if he's like, no, we're chilling, then I'll stay. So I called my dad, and my dad is so chill. He was just like, yeah, honey, of course, stay there. We're not doing anything tonight. You can just come tomorrow. Dinner's at 2, so be here by 2 o'clock tomorrow. And just a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was thinking, oh my God, this is perfect. My dad's not upset. I get to stay another day with Tara and her family. I get to meet everybody, and it's just, if anything, I love Thanksgiving, and I get another Thanksgiving dinner. So with that, I decided to stay. So we had an incredible day. We were making pie, making charcuterie boards, getting ready for Thanksgiving, and slowly the family all started to come over. And I was the only guest at this Thanksgiving, so I was the only person really everyone had to meet. But as I slowly met everyone, the 2 brothers, their kids, all the husbands and the wives, it was really nice, and they were very welcoming, and they all kind of said, hey, we listened to your podcast. That's so cool. That's my grandpa, or that's my dad. And it was this really cool experience where I got to meet someone who got their own experience out of an experience from someone else heard through the podcast. It was just this really cool way that the information trickled down. So all evening I was having great conversations with different individuals, talking about their grandpa or their father, and just getting to know the family, getting to know everybody. And then it's time for us all to sit down for dinner. And this is what I was nervous about, because sitting at a dinner table is hard for me because you're sitting very close to people. You're usually touching arms or elbows. It's very easy for things to come through when I'm sitting that close to someone. So we're all sitting at this square dining room table, and Tara's mom starts to make a speech. Is thanking everyone for being there. She's saying how sad she is that mom can't be there or dad, but she knows that he's in heaven looking down on them, and she also knows that he's watching over mom. And she was saying in her speech about how she wishes they were there, but she knows about how happy they would be knowing that their entire family is together. All of the brothers and the kids are all together having Thanksgiving, and she just knows how happy that makes her parents. So in that moment when she said, I wish they were here, I grabbed my friend Tara's leg because she was sitting beside me, and I turned to her and I said, he's here. And in that moment, I felt the grandpa's presence. I just felt him there so strongly, and it was overwhelming because literally in that moment, she said, I wish they were here. I grabbed her leg and I said, he's here. So I'm trying to whisper to Tara about what's going on, and the family had joked earlier, we listen to the podcast, so if you start to burp, we know what's going on, because whenever a spirit leaves, I always burp. So I was trying to cover my mouth in case I did start burping, but I was whispering to Tara saying like, he's here, I don't know what to do, but he's ready to talk. I said, do I tell your mom the message and maybe she tells the family? I don't know what to do right now. Like I was getting really nervous because we were all passing around the food. We had just started Thanksgiving dinner, and Tara didn't know what to do either. She said, I don't know. What do you need from me? Do we tell mom? Do we just ask mom? So we both look at her mom, and I say, it's time. He's here. And I say, what do we do? And she says that I need to say the message to the family. I start to lightly ding my glass to try to make a toast. And I'm so nervous, I'm barely touching my glass. So then Tara's mom grabs her glass and she starts to ting it and to get everyone to quiet down. And she says, this is an emergency. Everyone quiet down. And she turns to me and she said, Steph has something to say. So now I'm very nervous, and I'm holding my glass and I'm holding this knife that I was trying to make noise with. So I put them both down and I make a little joke and I say, well, it's not an emergency, but Dad is here. And the table falls dead silent, and all 14 set of eyes are on me. And when I start to channel, I don't know what they're going to say. It's like the soul takes over my mouth almost, and it just goes. So I know that I just need to get that first sentence out, and after that, it's like the soul just takes over. So when all the eyes were on me, I just knew I needed to get that first sentence out, because then the dad would just be rolling with the information. So I close my eyes and I am just saying everything the dad tells me to say. He had 2 sons there, and For every other reading, it's always been with his daughter. So he kind of said to the daughter, he said, "You've heard a lot from me, but I have to talk to your brothers now." And he started by saying he is so happy to see the family together. I had tears in my eyes when I was saying this sentence. And he said to his two sons, who were turning 60 and 65 that year, their birthdays are within the same week, and it is all near Thanksgiving. So they were also celebrating their birthdays this weekend, which was also a really big deal. So Dad said, 40 and 45 were big birthdays for you guys, but this one's more important because now life begins. And he said, this part of life is a part of life I never got to experience, but he knows how important it was because now you get to do what you want to do and now you have more time. So if you go back and listen to episode 4, it talks about how he died at a very young age. He was in his 30s. So he never got to live to be where his sons are now. And he wanted to talk about the person who just retired. I said, "Which one of you just retired?" And they point to the one brother. I said, "Your dad wants to acknowledge your retirement, and he wants to tell you, don't wait to do anything." He says, if you're thinking about doing something in 2 years, he wants you to do it now. He doesn't want you to wait for your life to live. He wants you to live your life now because you have time now. And he said that he is so proud of his kids and everything that they've done and everything that they've accomplished. But he's the most proud that they still stay together as a family and they still have each other's back and they still do things like this where they all make sure that they get together to have dinners together. And he was still talking to his two sons at this point. He said to them, "There's one thing that you can't teach as a father. You can't teach how to love a woman." He said, "But I see the love in your eyes for both of their partners." And he said, "That's the eyes that I had for your mother." He says he sees it in all of his kids' eyes, actually, all 3 of them, that they're all in love. And he says that he's always watching them and he's so happy that they've all found something that he thought was such a gift. And something that the kids told me afterwards was that the way that Dad looked at Mom was just indescribable. You can tell in his eyes how much he loved her and how much she loved him. And they think that their mom never had another love interest again because there was never another love like that. So he was just really happy that his sons found this love through something that he couldn't teach but only show them. So at this point, it had been a few minutes and I started to burp and I said he's leaving, but he wants you all to know that he's going to be with Mom. And again, he just can't be happier that you're all here together. So after this, it was obviously super emotional. Every person at that table had tears in their eyes. I had tears in my eyes. It was emotional. It was moving. It was a message from Dad at Thanksgiving dinner, Dad and Grandpa, to the entire family. Everyone was there. So we all got up and we were hugging each other and they were thanking me. And it was this really beautiful moment. And I knew that I needed to stay that night for this exact moment. There was a reason why I didn't leave the cottage that day like I was supposed to. So after dinner, 2 really important things happened just for me on a personal level. The one brother came over and he wanted to talk and he wanted to tell me about his dad and just kind of let me know on some information and piece some things together from the episode 4. I would love to know more about your dad. At this time, I've channeled him 3 times. Like, I want to know about him as a human. And he just shared these beautiful stories about his life and about what he remembers about his father. And it was so nice. And he said, how do I talk to my dad? How do I kind of connect with him? And I said, you don't need me to connect with your dad. You just need to listen and you need to kind of believe. A common misconception or people think that they need me to communicate with spirits. You are the most connected to these people. So I always say, if you want a sign, ask for one. If you want to communicate, ask and listen. You really need to listen and pay attention to the small things. People will always say, oh, my dad used to always have feathers, and I found 3 feathers this week, and I've really been thinking about him. Do you think that's him? Of course that's him. What more clear sign do you want? When it comes to spirit, it really doesn't get clearer than that. So if you think someone's trying to communicate with you, or if you're asking for a sign and you think you're getting it, you're getting it. Just listen. Because the other side wants to communicate with you. And there's limited number of people like me who have a clearer connection than there are spirits trying to connect with people. So I always tell people to listen to your intuition and trust it. The hardest part is the trust. And what I mean by that is trusting in yourself, trusting that you know what you know, you felt what you felt, you heard what you heard, you dreamt what you thought you dreamt. Those are all real things, and you need to believe in them if you are wanting a message. So apart from Dana's uncle coming up to me and sharing stories about his father, her boyfriend also came up to me. So earlier that day, he had asked me for Reiki, and he was kind of just saying, Steph, I don't really get it, but can you just try it on me? I kind of want to feel it. I want to feel what it's like. I want to see if I feel it. And a lot of people ask me this. They kind of hand me their hand and they say, I want to feel it. Kind of go. Let me see what it feels like. And this is hard because sometimes it feels like everything and sometimes it feels like nothing. After the dinner, he came up to me and he had tears in his eyes and he was just saying, Steph, I get it now. And thank you for giving that gift to this family. He said, I get it. And he was hugging me with tears in his eyes and he's like, it's indescribable. And earlier when you gave me Reiki, I did feel it and I kind of got it. He's like, but now I really get it. He said to me, there's no denying the energy that was at this table. There is no denying what just happened. And the fact that this is possible and I just saw it is, he said, it's just a gift. And then we had this really incredible moment and it was a really magical day. After dinner, we all had an amazing dinner. Everything was delicious. And I kind of felt like a big weight off my shoulders because Dad had come through. Everyone had gotten their little piece of what they were looking for. I was overjoyed that this amazing, incredible message came through on Thanksgiving dinner when everyone was sitting around the table. It was just an amazing Thanksgiving. So that is it for this episode. That is what happened on Thanksgiving 2019. So this was Thanksgiving dinner 1 of 3. Like I said in the last episode, my next few episodes are all from my Ontario trip. The next day I went to my dad's house and I had an experience then. So that will be next week's episode, episode 26. I'll be talking about what happened when I went to my dad's house. Thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm so thankful that you are following along in my journey. If you want to stay connected with me, you can follow me on Instagram. And again, if you haven't left a rating or a review, please do so. I would really, really appreciate it. All right, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle, and I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.